Our second speaker of Summerstrong 8, Day 2, is personal. Basically, this is a personal gift to myself that I was able to get this gentleman here. His name is Jud Logan. He has been coaching at National University in Ohio for close to 20 years now, 21 years. And it's a small school, and he's known in the world of throws, very widespread in that world, that niche world of throws. But if you're a hammer thrower that's been alive in the last 30 years, you know the name Jud Logan. And it's because Jud has either been on an Olympic team, 1984, 88, 92, and 2000. And I had the honor of being knocked out of the Olympic finals, or Olympic trial finals in 2004 by this guy who at 45 years old as he's making a comeback. I appreciate that. But the basic thing about Jud is not his athletic achievements. They're obviously very, very high level. I remember your first day after you turned 50, you decided to break the world record with a hammer, and his first throw was the world record in the 50-year-old hammer. So he's a lifer. He's a guy that lives, eats, bleeds, breathes sports performance and love for it. But the most impressive part is, in 20 years of meeting his athletes, I never found someone that could say a bad word about Jud Logan. Some people in this room will walk down the aisle by Jud. People come back to have him coach them, to mentor them, and in my opinion, whether it's throws, football, or whatever you want to say, Jud Logan is one of the best coaches I've ever met. So I'm thrilled to have him here to speak to us. Not only because he could finally make it after 7 years, because he's usually at the Nationals this week. We usually go to June. He's usually at the Nationals sending down their kids to whether it's to chase their dreams. So without any further ado, Jud Logan.
Good morning. Two things. Number one more round of applause for Joe Kennedy. So many of us in this realm that we do are connected by the internet. And I've never met Joe Ken. I started reading about tier training when he was at Boise State. And this was just hard copy journal articles, not even stuff that was being posted. So for me to hear him, that was special today. Second thing before I get started, I do this little thing in my mind about who's in the room. Do you realize who's in the room? I mean, Richard Soren, the first guy that ever closed the number 3 gripper, deadlifted 500 pounds for how many straight years? 49, is going to be 50 today. Today he's going to deadlift 500 pounds for the 50th straight year. That's who's in the room. Okay, the Raider Project's in the room. Let me tell you else is who's in the room. In 2004, a very good friend of mine went to the Olympics with aspirations of winning the gold medal. He got a silver medal in the Olympics. 8 years later, they did a drug test, and the Ukrainian failed. It took 8 years for a guy that's in this room today to receive his gold medal. Never got to stand on the podium and be recognized. And I want him to stand right now. Adam Nelson, gold medalist. In my opinion, is a guy that did 4 Olympic Games. That should happen everywhere he goes. Everywhere he goes for the rest of the life, that moment that was stolen from him, the same respect that we give to servicemen. All right, let me talk about what I came to talk about. I got a real simple question for everyone in this room. How many of you, at the age of 8, knew exactly what you were going to do with the rest of your life? Age of 8. Richard Soren did. I did. I knew exactly what I was going to do. At 8 years old, I knew for a fact that I was going to play for the Green Bay Packers. I knew it. You know how I knew it? My dad did. My dad was a Green Bay Packer. My dad played at Ohio State. He was team captain for Woody Hayes. Got drafted by the Browns. Before he ever got to the Browns, he was traded to the Packers. 8 years old, we walk into a restaurant. The whole place would just go quiet. Get close. And I would just look as we walked by. At that level of respect, the way this man commanded the room and said, look at me, without having to ever say a word. And at 8 years old, I'm looking up at my dad, who was an NFL lineman, and I was like, God, I will do that. I will somehow learn to garner that level of respect that that man has when he walks in the room. If it takes playing for the Green Bay Packers, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm growing up, and I don't know whether I'm having athletic success or not. Everybody tells me I'm good. I later found out I wasn't. I wasn't as good as my brothers. My brother Jeff went to Ohio State on a full ride scholarship. Also played for Woody Hayes, was a team captain, got drafted by the Baltimore Colts. That's right, Baltimore Colts. So here I am now, I'm 16 years old, and my brother just got drafted by the Baltimore Colts, and I'm like, I still think I'm going to play for the Packers. I'm like, dude, you didn't even start varsity as a sophomore. You were still on the JV when the 6 or 7 best, you know how Joe Ken said the best guys are always going to play? That wasn't me. I did not become a starter in high school until my senior year. 6'4", 180 pounds, and threw the discus 170 feet. Never qualified for a state meet. Went to Kent State on a half track, half football scholarship because my name was Logan. And I still thought, man, I'll never have that respect because I'm never going to play for the Green Bay Packers. In 1982, a guy by the name of Al Shotton became my 3rd college coach in 4 years at Kent State University. And I met someone who started me off on my journey. My talk today is not going to be about numbers. It's not going to be about, if you want to know how much I ever squatted or benched or cleaned or snatched, grab me in a corner and ask me, and I can run them all down for you, but that's not what this is about. This is about a journey that helped me realize that it had nothing to do with the fact that my father played for the Green Bay Packers, that commanded the level of respect that he did when he walked into that room. It was the person that he was, who just happened to play football for the Green Bay Packers. I'm 55 years old, I'll be 56 this July. I'm still searching and earning that level of respect that he had, and has nothing to do with the fact that I went to 4 Olympic Games. That passion he put in me when I was younger to aspire to be a Packer is some of the same passion and inspiration that led me to those Olympic Games. 2 years ago, I got asked to speak at a conference. I mean, this is a big deal. There's going to be, 4,000 people. It's going to be in Boston in this convention center. And it's like, this is going to be the closest thing you've ever been to a TED Talk. Like, you're going to have, this is good. It's not just, Judge, you just can't wing it anymore. I always wing it. I don't do PowerPoints. I just wing it. I tell stories from my heart. And as Adrian will tell you, he has no idea what he's going to say until 30 seconds before he gets up there. And that's the truth. That's what Brandon Lilly did last night. That's what people in this profession who speak from the heart, who maybe don't have all the hardcore science background, but some of the other people in this room do. But I always feel like, belief, having a belief in oneself, having a belief in one's system is so much more powerful than science. So much more powerful. So I said, what do they want me to talk about? They want me to talk about your coaching philosophy. If I'm going to talk about my coaching philosophy, I know how to do that. I just never gave everything names, proper names. It's like naming your children. I had 6 children. I am writing a book, and I'm about 75% done. So everything that we talk about today is the foundation of my coaching book. And in my coaching book, we talk about 6 points. And the number 1 point was, you need to meet your light giver. And when does that happen? What is a light giver? Is this still? I don't think it is. Can you guys hear me? Yeah. All right. Do you know what a light giver is? A light giver is someone that can illuminate your map 1 inch farther than you can currently see. And we know on a map how far an inch is, right? You see in such a vacuum what you think is capable. And then in 1982, Al Schotterman walks in, and he coaches me my senior year, and I throw 196.10 in the hammer, 60 meters. By today's college standards, that's terrible. But I was on my 3rd college coach. I was partying way too much. I didn't have a focus. It was the 80s. Richard, it was the 80s. Yeah, you smile. Okay, so he comes to me in 1982. I just got my degree. I'm going to marry my high school sweetheart. I stop by and I shake his hand and I say, you know, I'm going to be back. I got to finish my degree. I'm going to do a 5th year. Can I still train with you guys? Oh yeah, you can still train. So I get coached by him that year. I go from 196 to 212 feet. Get my college degree. I get offered a job by some little cable company in Connecticut.
Hello.
That's not even in the state of Ohio yet, called ESPN. 1982. Not in Ohio yet, but we're going to be big. Yeah, whatever. They offered me a job. It's $12,000 a year. I was a radio and TV major. $12,000 a year. I'm going to go. I go over and tell Al, man, I wish you'd have been my coach the whole time. You're one of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life. This is 1982. He says, you know, the Olympics are in 2 years. I said, yeah, Los Angeles. How cool is that? He says, how would you like to go? And I looked right at him in the eyes and I said, you have tickets already? How do you have tickets? I did not know what he was talking about. Because at 212 feet, I was ranked number 47 in the United States. And I said, Coach, don't they only take 3? He goes, they do. You give me the next 2 years of your life, and I will put you on that Olympic team. Really? Man, that's cool. I never dreamed of being an Olympian. Not once until that day. Not once had it ever entered my mind. Someone believed enough in me to say, give me the next 2 years of your life. So I went home and I talked to my wife, and she's like, cool, we'll make it work. So I go over to see my parents, because I got to know what Dad thinks. And I said, you know the Olympics are in Los Angeles in 2 years. Al thinks I can go. My dad says he has tickets already. He did not think that his hyperactive, brilliant child son was going to be able to go to the Olympics either. So, in 1984, 83, I improved by 22 feet and moved to number 13 in the United States. Plan was working. In January of 1984, we're doing hammer turns in the field house of Kent State University, right? Turn, 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 turn. You'll never forget it. Just like your first college dance day. Like, you don't forget it. Hammer turns, right? We're doing turns and the football team comes in and they go, okay, track, out, out. We got the NFL scouts coming in. Our guys are gonna run the 40. Okay, but we have practice. We're on the board. Doesn't matter. NFL scouts are here. You guys are gone. So we move off to the side, and all the football players start running their 40-yard dashes. And all I can hear is, what? 4'9"? My coach said I was 4'6". And I can see this guy right here. He's representing 5 different teams. He goes, welcome to the NFL. Move along. Move along. One shot. They said, your foot slips, you're done. One shot. We're here for 15 minutes. So, I was throwing really far. I was jumping really high. And Al shot him and says, hey, go run a 40. What? He goes, go run a 40. How fast were you when you played football here? I said, I was 4'6". I played wide receiver when I came to Kent State. I was on a half scholarship. He says, go run a 40, you'll run faster. Coach, I'm 247 pounds now. Doesn't matter. Are you vertically jumping higher at 247 pounds than you were? Go do it. I got a little dyslexic. I wasn't 247, I was 274. 274 pounds. Higher vertical jump then than when I played football at 188 pounds. So you have to say what your name was, what your position was. So I got out there and I'm like, Jud Logan, I haven't played football in a couple of years, and I want to be a running back. It was a joke anyways, it didn't matter. So I started moving around, and I'm like, hey, you're going to take this seriously, aren't you? Talking to me, you're going to take this seriously, aren't you? Damn right I'm going to take this seriously. We'll walk in the octagon. Right, Joe? I'm going to walk in the octagon. When I step on the line, someone's going to put a watch on me. That's like saying it's max day. So I get down to that 40-yard dash, and boom, I come off the line. I come across the finish line like that. I felt like Usain Bolt, and I said, woohoo! I smoked it. Now, all these coaches that have been here like this, they all start walking to me like this. They go, what's your name again? Did you really say you want to play running back? And what was my time? And he goes, I missed it. And the other guy goes, well, what'd you have him at? He goes, yeah, I missed it too. Hey, wait a minute, you guys don't miss anything. What was my time? They go, we got you at 4.52. That can't be right. Can't be right. They go, you need to run again. And all the other players that were from Kent State's football team, who I was no longer a part of, they're like, he can't do that. You said one shot. So I run again, and they were all over me. And to make a long story short, on the next day, I was on an airplane to Seattle, and I met with Chuck Knox, and they had this defensive coordinator come out. Chuck Knox is sitting up in the box here, and this defensive coordinator comes out, and he goes, what'd you play when you last played football? I go, well, I was a wide receiver, but I was 240. They moved me into tight end. Now I'm 270. He goes, okay, show me your first step. So he lines up. I get down to the 3-point, and I come up like this. And he goes, I've been in the league 10 years. Show me your first step. Oh, okay. Come up to him again like this. He looks up at Chuck Knox, and he shakes his head like this. He goes, look, son, I'm going to give you one more chance. Come off the line and show me your first step. Okay, I'm stepping into the octagon. Whistles start going off, bells start getting crazy in my head. Put my foot in the ground, put my hand on the ground, came up right like this, right up, boom, right up under his chest, big old pecs. Bam, forearm right there. Caught him, got him up on his heels, did a drive to a plant step. He went back 4 feet on the air. Right in the middle of his back, air's out, and I'm like, sir, I am so sorry. And he looks up at Chuck Knox and he goes, so I had some decisions to make. I got offered by NFL contracts. I come back, my phone's blowing up, this league called the USFL. June Jones, Mounts Davis, the Denver Bulls. They're all calling. They all want me to come play football. All I want to do is go to the Olympics. That was a joke. That day was supposed to be a joke. But Al Schotterman had put my body into that position. He was my light giver. He was that person that illuminated the map farther than what I could see myself. Joe Ken, who was your light giver? Who was the person in your life for the first time believed in you more than you believed in yourself? His dad. It took me. I had a father that was a great role model. He wasn't my light giver. You know what reason he wasn't my light giver? He never pushed any of us kids towards sports. We wanted to play the violin, here's 25 bucks, I'll pick you up. You want to play soccer? I don't know a damn thing about it. Here's 25 bucks, I'll come and watch, and I'll pick you up. My father was not my light giver. Very important man in my life, my role model. But my light giver was Al Schotterman. He was that person that could take that flashlight and look and go, you can't see this yet, but I'm putting you on that Olympic team. So in 1984, as an unknown, because all the great hammer throwers were on the West Coast, because who would be stupid enough to stay in Ohio and throw the hammer, which you have to throw outside, through 4 months of snow and cold? This guy didn't know any other way. Been doing it my whole life. Went to the Olympic trials. My family's like, we're coming. I go, no. Well, why don't you want us to come? I said, because it's expensive. And the games are 4 weeks later. Let me go do this trials thing by myself. So I went out to the Olympic trials. LA Coliseum. Seats 105,000. There's 20,000 people in that stadium. You could have heard a pin drop. It was so quiet. I sit down on the bench next to a guy by the name of Ed Burke. He's got a card from his kids. It's like, Dad, don't open until 5 minutes before the hammer. And I'm sitting beside him putting my shoes on. And he opens up his card. And I'm not going to be that guy and read it. I was curious. Didn't have to read it. Musical cards had just come out. He's got a card playing Rocky. And his kid's got it. And he is starting to... he's spitting. Sorry about that. That's what it was like. And I was like, oh man. So this is what the Olympic trials are all about. And I finished second at the Olympic trials, and I made my first Olympic team. And my father said to me, he goes, I have a present for you, but don't open it until after the Olympic trials. Parents are funny that way, but that was from his kids. So I opened up this present from my dad that was in my book bag, and on the front of it, it says USA Track and Field. So cool. Red, white, and blue. They own a sporting goods store. So I put this jacket on, and as we're running our victory lap, Bill Green and Ed Burke, the other two people who made the Olympic team, look at me and they go, you cocky son of a bitch. I go, what are you talking about? They go, you didn't see the back of the jacket? In 6-inch block letters, USA Olympic Team. And I'm wearing a jacket already like I have made the team. Like, oh, I knew I was going to make the team. That jacket was from my father and I didn't know it was in my bag. So if anyone's ever told you that I'm a fairly nice guy but I'm cocky, that's the reason. That's the only reason, that story. So I met my light giver. I met Al Schotterman, and he continued to illuminate for me. And I'll tell you what, after the opening ceremonies, 1984, in the LA Coliseum, this time with 105,000 people watching and millions more watching on television, I'm in the tunnel, waiting to come out. We're the last team, the United States, host country, last team to come out, waiting in the tunnel, and all of a sudden the tunnel starts shaking. We're in LA, I'm an Ohio boy, we're having an earthquake. I'm freaking out. I'm looking up, Guy by the name of Matt Wilkins puts his arm around me, he goes, "It's not an earthquake. You'll understand in a second." As we walked out into the LA Coliseum, it was the people. Our team was starting to crest the field, and I was in the back. We were so many of us. And as we came out, 105,000 people stomping the stadium, chanting USA. Jesse Owens' granddaughter, Jessie Hemphill, runs in the Olympic flag into the stadium. Whoa! Hands it off to Rayford Johnson. Rayford Johnson takes it to the top of the steps of the LA Coliseum. What you don't know is Rayford Johnson was so dehydrated. We got velour warm-ups for August in LA. We're all wearing them. We're all wearing them. We're all wearing, it's for the video. We're all wearing the velour warm-ups. We're all sweating our ass off. Rayford Johnson had been out there forever. He's so dehydrated, he's running the torch up and he pulls his hamstring. 2 strides later, he pulls his other hamstring. You should hear him tell the story. He barely got the torch to the cauldron, but he got up there and he lit it. And Edwin Moses got up and he said the Olympic oath. And I just sat out there in the middle of that Olympic Games, and I'm just like walking, looking around, and I said, you know what? God, it's the coolest thing I've ever done in my life. I got to do this again. I knew right there I was hooked. I was going to another Olympics. Or I was going to try 4 more years. So, what I learned next on the coaching journey is that you have to find your light giver. Okay? You may have already met yours. You may be still seeking yours. Some people met them as young as 12, 13, 14 years old. I met my light giver my senior year in college. Then he left. And he said to me, I need you to go out and be an explorer. It's the second step of every great coach. After you establish who your light giver is, you have to be willing to be an explorer. Who all knows that Joe Ken is the head strength coach of the Carolina Panthers? Everyone knows that. Did you hear how many stops there were before then? How many places he had to go out and explore? The biggest thing I talk to when I talk to young kids these days is that they want something, they aren't willing to go out and explore to find it because it means getting out of their comfort zone of where they currently are. Exploration. First time I went to Europe, everyone's all over the place doing all these tours. I was sitting in the training hall, watching the Russians and the East Germans train, and writing down everything I saw. Everything I saw. I saw a javelin thrower from the DDR by the name of Petra Felka. I saw her snatch high pull 120 for a triple to her chin. She also threw the javelin over 80 meters and could 4 kilo a shot put over her head over 70 feet. I wanted to know what they were doing. Even at the age of 41, when I made my 4th Olympic team in Sydney, Australia, I was doing very little going out and doing other stuff. I would sit in the training hall, or I would sit at the track, and I would watch what people do. If you're going to move up the ranks of coaching, if you're going to move up the ranks of athletics, you have to be willing to be an explorer. And it's not always, because it's not always fun to move all over the country or to go find people. But that's what I did. So you do all this exploration, and you got to figure out what's next. So I got through all this research, and I had books and books of training information. I didn't know what to do with it. And somebody said to me, you got to find somebody that can help you, all right? You got to seek the gold standard. This is number 3. Number one, find your light giver. Number two, be willing to be explorer. And then at some point in your life, you have to go seek the gold standard. You know what the gold standard is? Who is the very best in the industry you currently want to do? Okay? So, Richard Soren, when you got into strength and conditioning, when you got into equipment, who was the gold standard that you sought out and sought wisdom from?
I went to York, Pennsylvania, every Saturday, and it was good. I walked up, bought that RP, the golden team back in the day, and wanted what they could do. And I decided that was.
He went to York every Saturday as a kid. He sought out who was the gold standard of the industry. I was a hammer thrower. The gold standard of the hammer thrower was a guy by the name of Stuart Toger. Okay? Stuart Toger had come over here from Scotland. He was living in the East Coast and eventually moved out to Oregon. And so I went up and I met him. The first time he met me, he walked up to me, stand up, Bert. Stuart Toger walked up to me and he looked at me and he grabbed me and he grabbed my pec like this and he squeezed his fingernail so deep in that I thought I was currently bleeding. He goes, "You don't ever bench again. You're a hammer thrower." My first meeting with Stuart Toger, the gold standard. I stopped benching. Had a 480 bench at that time. I stopped benching. The hammer started going farther. Lo and behold, I could stretch the ball longer. Part of my exploration, part of meeting the gold standard, is that I used to go out to Oregon every 6 weeks. And then when I couldn't afford to stay in hotels out there, I would borrow money from my parents to fly him into where I live and put him up in my house. But I was getting coaching by the gold standard every 6 weeks. And you know what started happening after I found my gold standard? When I sought the very best person in the industry to work with, I started breaking American records. Not making Olympic teams, I'm talking about breaking American records, 90 contracts. Broke the American record 13 times in the hammer throw over the course of 4 Olympic Games. Are you willing to explore? Well, look at, you're sitting here. Not everybody came here from Columbia. I came from 9 hours away. I would have come from 9 hours away last year if the dates would have worked for me. But here I am. I've seen every single presenter so far. I will see every single presenter till the end. I'm not only here as a speaker. You'll hear why I'm here at the end. Okay? Meet that light giver. Get out and be an explorer. Seek the gold standard, and trust me, be persistent. All right, now, here's the tough one. You want to be a good coach? Is number 4. 4 of 6. You want to be a good coach? Develop something that makes others want to be where you are. Think about that. Develop something that makes others want to be where you are or get what you have. Okay? For me, as a coach at Ashland University, I had 2 little snot-nosed freshman girls come in together as freshmen. Later found out they didn't like the check. One of them had just lost her father to a tragic fire the year before. And the only reason she was considering me is because now she wanted to stay home closer to her mom. The other girl had lost her mother to an illness. Didn't really get along with her father. He didn't understand athletics. These girls both came in. Neither of them were the most highly recruited girls in the country. They had some talent. And redshirted, won 1 year and won the next year. In 5 years, These two girls became 26-time All-Americans. Two girls. One of those girls is here today. You guys know who that is? That's Adrian Wilson. Stand up, Adrian. Coolest thing about Adrian is her husband owns Delaney's. We were last night. Adrian won 13 of those 26 All-Americans. Now listen to this stat. Of those 13 All-Americans, 7 of those were national championships. And the other 6, second places. Second places were to her teammate, Jackie Jeschling, who went on to make the 2004 Olympic team. 13-time All-American. They're both still currently the national record holders in Division II. Adrian, how long have you been gone since you graduated? So over 10 years. Over 10 years, both her and Jackie are still the NCAA Division II national record. Adrian threw 41 feet in the shot put out of high school. In her 5th year at Ashland, she threw 58-10 in the shot put. Started training for the Olympics and felt a tightness in her chest. Was diagnosed, if you know the story, Adrian was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. Wow. Devastated. Man, what can I do? There's no way this girl's going to make the Olympic team. She may not even be living. She's a fighter. She's got to be a fighter. So, man, I don't know what to do. This is something that's like, this is new for me. So, I went to see Adrian at chemo. And as I went there, I didn't know what I was going to do until I walked in. When I walked in, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I slipped off my Olympic ring, and I put it in her hand. And I said, "This is yours. If you never make an Olympic team, this is yours for the rest of your life. You're like a daughter. If you do make an Olympic team, like I think you will, after you get healthy, I want it back when you get your own." Gosh, what a moment between coach and athlete. So cool. So she goes through chemo, she kicks cancer's ass, she's bloated, her hair's short, she goes to the Olympic trials with a shirt that says, "I kick cancer's ass." Face is bloated, you look at the pictures, you didn't notice it then, you look at the pictures like, wow. This young lady over here finished 5th in the Olympic trials 5 months after chemo. I helped develop that girl, and it made others want to be where I was. And all of a sudden, the Ashland program blew up. If you develop something where you're currently working, why does everybody want Sornex equipment? Because Dad and Bert designed something that made everybody else want what they have. And some of them didn't even ask, they just took it. Wrote it. Sorry. So, I developed a program that made other kids. I have 27 growers in my college program. I coach 27 kids. You talk to an average throws coach, I got 8 kids. Oh no, I got a big team, I got 11. I got 27 kids. And I treat every single one of them as their own son or daughter. I developed something that made other kids want to be where I'm at. If you want to be a successful coach, you have to develop something. A program, a tier training program. You have to develop athletes that other people go, "Wow, holy smokes, look at you, body transformation. Who did that for you?" Well, I train with Robert Jacobs. He's a body comp trainer. And he gave me this stuff, and then I did a Poliquin protocol of nutrition, and I leaned out, and yeah, I don't know if it worked for you, but Robert Jacobs was my guy. Now all of a sudden, I'm over here and go, "Hey, Robert, My wife's fat, I'm a trainer. Not me, I'm saying somebody. So now Robin's got client number 2. Now when he starts making this guy's wife look smoking hot, he's got client 3, 4, and the husband. Because now the younger guys are looking at his wife, now he like, oh, thought it was okay for him to be like this. So you need to develop something that makes others want to be where you're at. Isn't that what college football is? Urban Meyer at Ohio State, who just won the national championship, isn't he developing something that makes anyone who wants to throw the football or catch the football want to be there? And if the only reason they don't get him is because there's about 12 or 15 other guys across the country that are pretty damn good at doing the exact same thing. Develop something that makes others want to be where you're at, and you will have finished step 4. For me, I talked about Adrian and Jackie. I wrote these stats down because we just finished NCAAs. In my 21 years, I've had 233 thrower All-Americans and 47 national champions. That's a stat, okay? So in 21 years, I've been averaging a little over 2.5 national champions per season. And everyone else is like doing the same, but they're trying. There's so many young coaches that just want to get my first national champion. I know if I can get my first national champion, I'm going to have more. You got to get 1 before you can get 2. Isn't that the same with Super Bowl rings? Can't win 2 like the Steelers until you win 1. Okay? That's the same way with All-Americans. That's the same way with national champions. All right, step 5. This one's a little out there, only because of the word that I chose to use. You've sought the gold standard, but then you've gone off and you've developed something, you've created something that hopefully is on the same level as your gold standard. Now you have to find the oracle. Wow. We talk about matrix shit? Neo, the one. Yeah, you got to find the oracle. You know what the oracle is? The oracle is the all-knowing. The oracle is someone that can help you. You've gone all this time. You found your light giver. You explored. You developed. You learned. You went to seminars all over the country. And now you've established these huge stack of maps. Okay? Everyone should have learned something this weekend. That's a new map for you. How you decide to use that map is up to you. But now you've got all these maps, and all of a sudden you're like, information overload. How do I actually design that into a program? The oracle for me was Charles Poliquin. I met Charles Poliquin, and he's, in a metaphysical way, basically said, drop all your maps, let me see your information, and he started stitching them all together for me. After he stitched all my information and everything I knew about training together, he's like, wow, that's quite a collection, but you're missing this, this, and that. Really? What is that? The oracle is the person that can tell you not only where everything goes in order, but what you're missing. And so that person for me, when I went to visit Charles Poliquin in 1991 in Montreal, talk about being an explorer. I drove up to Montreal, having never met him, knocked on his door at 10 o'clock at night after the authorities at the border threatened me that why was I going to Montreal if I didn't speak French? Really? No one there speaks English? And they're like, not 94% of the people. I said, well, the guy I'm going to see does. So I went to Montreal, I knocked on Poliquin's door, and he wasn't there. 10 o'clock at night, I'm in Montreal. 10:30, he comes walking up the street, he's got 2 little bags of groceries and a little top hat, and that can't be done. All I've seen is pictures of this guy holding up this 20-inch arm, and then all these bobsledders and world record holders and short track speed skating that he's developed and written all these programs for, and the fastest push times, and this cannot be him. Adam, what was it like the first time you met Charles? 5'6". He may say he's 5'8", 5'6". Bert, you met him? He's wider this way than he is tall. So I met with him, and he taught me over the next 2 years. I took some of my maps and I threw them out. Okay, I was holding on to old doctrines that just didn't hold any relevance anymore, and it made so much sense. He was my oracle. He stitched everything together for me and told me what I was missing, and then he sent me back out to explore. The mission is never done as a coach. The day you stop learning as the coach is the day you start losing. You better keep learning. I don't care how old you are. Why is Coach Schrock here today? Coach Schrock, how many years have you been doing this?
This will be season 44.
Season 44. How much more can this guy learn? Right? Really? How much more can you learn? Do you not have enough to be a pretty good coach for the rest of your life if you never learned another thing? Of course you do. It's not enough for you, is it?
Never.
He's looking for that nugget. He's looking for that one little thing, that one small piece of information that's going to help him move forward. Find out who your oracle is. The 6th step's probably the coolest one of all. But without step number 6, you have no shot of being a good coach. I keep saying a good coach. I'm going to tell you why in a second, because I do not believe that there is a great coach on the planet. I don't believe there's one. There's a lot of good coaches. Don't believe there's any great ones. Okay? Number 6, you need to mentor someone else's dream as their light giver, as part of their exploration. Be their gold standard. Be that oracle. But you have to mentor someone else's dream. It is so wrong for you to gather all this information and use it selfishly for yourself. If you don't share that information, you're not a good coach. You got to do all the other stuff to get there, but I'm telling you, you will never complete the cycle until you mentor someone else's dream. We talked about Robert Jacobs earlier. We met through the internet. This is our first time meeting. He works with Derek Woodsky. Been to Poliquin seminars. We have a lot of common people in our circle of friends, but have never met. I don't believe you've had an opportunity yet in your young coaching career to mentor someone else's dream. I think you've found your light giver, if that was Ryan Family and Derek Woodsky. I think you're still in your exploration phase. I think you are searching for the gold standard, and that's why you're here this weekend to meet all these great people. But I don't think at your age that you're old enough to have an opportunity to really mentor someone's dream to completion. Okay? I had that opportunity, and I'm here to tell you it's the coolest thing in the world. Had a guy by the name of Derek Woodsky. Anybody know that name? The Manimal, right? Bert keeps inviting him every year too, except he's usually in another country. Yeah. Had a guy by the name of A.G. Kruger, Division II athlete out of Morningside, Iowa, ready to quit the hammer just like I was. And I gave him the Al Schotterman treatment. I said, you move to Ashland in 2 years, I'm going to put you on the Olympic team. Really? He moves to Ashland. 2 years later, knocked me off the Olympic team, trying to make my 4th team, and made his 1st. Man, I've got to mentor someone else's dream and see it to completion. Derek Woodsky came to me and he says, hey, I've been coached by a lot of people. I want to break the Canadian record. Can we do that? Absolutely. 2 years later, he smashed the Canadian record. When you have the opportunity to mentor someone else's dreams, you've really had an opportunity to complete that cycle. And as you mentor those dreams of those other people, either as their light giver, their gold standard, or their oracle, you will have had an opportunity to complete that coach's journey. So this book that has become my passion of just throwing scraps of paper together and shoving it in a box and starting to develop over the course of 12 years everything that I've ever thought about coaching. Not training, that's going to be a different book. I have to do this coaching one. I'm a way better coach than I ever was an athlete. I made 4 Olympic teams and broke the American record 13 times. Why? That was one person doing just a little bit of good. When I have a chance to be an influence on 27 kids every year and see those kids through completion. So what does it mean when you start to develop those relationships? You get a phone call from a guy by the name of Joe Wilson, and he says, "Coach, I know Adrian's father is no longer here with us, so I think that it's only right that I call and I ask you for Adrian's hand in marriage." What? Is this the scary guy I've seen pictures of? Is he really talking to me like this? This is house? This that scary guy? Yeah. Yeah, you have permission. And Adrian saying to me, "Coach, I want you to walk me down the aisle." Is there any honor greater than having an opportunity to walk one of your former athletes down the aisle because the father's not available to do so? Not only did I do it, but guess who got the first dance at the reception? Right here. And guess what happened on that dance? Anybody have any idea what got passed back to me? The ring. This was her Olympics. Her meeting Joe and getting married and getting that ring on her finger, she realized meant more to her than that Olympic dream ever could have made, because she met her soulmate. That was Adrian's Olympic Games. Mission completed. Ring passed back to me. Put in my pocket. Never was talked about again until tonight. My wife's still under the impression that we don't have that ring. No, she knows. I've been married 34 years. She knows. So that's my philosophy on coaching. Like Joe Ken said, he gives you to be wrong. It's your right to be wrong. All right? This is my stuff on coaching. Okay? So if you believe after what I tell you is the foundation of my coaching, you don't need to believe any of this. What you do need to understand is where the word coach comes from. Does anybody know the etymology of the word coach and where it comes from? Yes?
Comes from the carriage. Carry someone from one destination to the next.
It comes from the carriage, the stagecoach, to carry someone from one destination to All right, so I got to put my glasses on. Here's what it says. The etymology of the word coach. Stagecoach. The safe passage from one place to another. Belief by the passenger in your ability for someone to get you from one place to another. Think about that as a coach. Don't think of it as the stagecoach. Think of it as a coach. Here it is. The safe passage from one place to another. The belief by the passenger in your ability for someone to get you from one place to another. And it is your ability to make it safe and comfortable. And here's the caveat of coaching. But it still doesn't always mean they'll get there. Okay? So what used to happen back in the day? The rich people would pay for the stagecoach, trust them with the armed guard up there that they were going to safely get them to their destination. And what happens sometimes? Boom, hijacked, dead. They didn't make it. That's really what happens in coaching. When you get a young 18, 19-year-old boy or girl that comes to you and is trusting you to coach them, they're believing in you that you have the ability to get them safely from one destination to another. But there's no guarantee that that's going to happen. which is why I've never promised a kid in 21 years of coaching how far they throw if they came to my school. I promise them two things. One, I look right in the eyes of the recruit and I say, you will get your education before you leave here. That's it. I'm going to go to your dad. Dad, I'm going to take care of your sons if he's my son. Done. Coach Logan's promise is over. I looked at Adrian Blewett's mother and I said, I will take care of your daughter as if she's my own. Ray Blewett had a tear in her eye that day. Man, I thought, I got mom. I didn't know if I had Adrian, but I had mom. You have to understand what we are as coaches and what that does. Why do I say that there's no great coaches? Okay, this is what I wrote down. There are no great coaches, only good coaches, ones that are blessed to have talent, and they appear to be great by default. It's the truth. I'm sorry. You don't take Mike Krzyzewski out of Duke and put him at Kent State University and give him the same amount of scholarships that he has at Duke and say, I want you in the Final Four every year. Are they going to get better as a team? Absolutely. But they're not going to get the same level of athletes to Kent State University that they get to Duke. They're not going to get the same amount of football players somewhere else in a mid-level major that they get in Alabama. It doesn't mean that you can't beat them every now and again, but I don't believe that Urban Meyer is a great coach. I think he's a good coach that's been surrounded by incredible talent. Okay? If I'm such a good coach, why have coach become All-American? Because I've got way more who didn't than did. Even though I've coached the most amount of Americans in hammer throw, All-Americans in NCAA history, I have the largest number of kids who didn't make it also. So what is it? Am I a good coach? Am I a great coach? Am I a bad coach? I'm a good coach. It took me 20 years to be a good coach. You know what makes you appear to be great by default? Having Kibwe Johnson walk into your office and say, I went to Georgia, I was on a full ride, I flunked out, I went to a junior college, and I met a guy by the name of Coach Mack who absolutely loves you, and he said, you need to go to Ashland and be with Jud Logan. So I coached Kibwe Johnson. The national record at that time in the weight throw was 78 feet. I coached Kibwe Johnson. His first year, he breaks his leg and falls down a set of stairs at 4 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, that happened. So we didn't have a year of eligibility. During that year of eligibility, he flunked out of school. So now he had to go to another school to get back to come here. All this time we're training and I'm trying to give this kid life lessons. In his 1 year of eligibility for us, in his third year at Ashland, he threw 82 feet 7 inches in the weight to break the all-time NCAA record by any division, which Michael Learman finally broke this year. Everyone's like, man, that Jud Logan, he's a great coach. No, I was the same coach with kids way less talented than Kibwe Johnson before he ever got there and made me look great by default. You have to have talent. Don't kid yourself that you can learn so much more than everyone else as long as you've got this huge toolbox and you drag that huge toolbox of all the stuff you've learned and you drag it out onto the field, but on the field you don't have any talent, you are not going to win. It doesn't mean you're not a good coach, but you're not going to win. So understand that I don't believe there's great coaches. I believe there's a lot of people that are good, and it takes a long time. I got 3 more. Create a belief system. That's probably the one thing that Bert's talking about when he talks about the Ashland kids. Create a belief system. I always tell coaches, like, what can I do? I just don't understand how you got this level of respect. I said, look, a bad coach that's believed in is better than a good coach that doesn't have his team. Okay, you understand that? A bad coach that tells you that we're going to do sets of 15 in the hang clean, sets of 20 in the hang snatch. I did sets of 20 in the hang snatch. But guess what? Al Schotterman, who was a 72 Olympian, he was telling us to do sets of 20 in the hang snatch. We believed it. We got better. You know who told him? Doug Raymond, who was his coach. So the information that I was getting about the snatch was nearly 100 years old. True story. True story. But you know what? We believed it. So a bad coach believed it is better than a good coach who's not believed it. But if you don't understand what happens next, what happens when a good coach is believed in? Now you're going to start winning championships. When you become a good coach and you have the respect of your players and the respect of your team, you're going to win championships. What are champions? Put this on every t-shirt that I have when I run my stretching religiously. Did he just start this when he got to the Olympics because it was the Olympics? No. Champions are made when no one's watching, in preparation that championships are won when everyone is watching. Champions are made when no one's watching. Championships are won when everyone's watching. That's the caveat to that. I'll leave you with this last thought. There was a guy, and in this last thought I'm going to tell you that if I could be left with leaving my kids with one thought about what defined me, I call those tombstone moments. Something you wouldn't mind seeing on your tombstone, something that defines who you are. Here's mine. Here's my tombstone moment. A guy by the name of Jud Davis. He was a 56, 60, and 64 Olympian. Went to the Olympics and ran an individual race and got a medal. Came time for the 4x4, and he's the anchor leg. In the third leg, the United States dropped the baton. The United States went from first to ninth in a matter of seconds. When Jud Davis got the baton, he was more than 60 meters behind first place. It's only 400 meters to go, folks. 60 meters. Took off on the baton like he was running a 100-yard dash. Nothing at first. At 200, the other guys in front of him were starting to slow. He's still accelerating. Comes all the way off the third bend, and all of a sudden, he is in 5th place. Then he's up on 4th. And he comes up on the shoulder of the 3rd place guy, and as they came across the finish line, photo finish. United States Olympic team. 4th place. No medal. Story over? No. Jud Davis ran a 43.96 confirmed split on the anchor leg when the world record was 45 seconds. Okay? And they asked him why. You currently saw 60 meters. There was no way you were going to catch up to the gold medal. You already had a medal. Here it is. Here's my tombstone moment. You know what he said? Does anybody know what Jud Davis said? What I had, I gave. What you saved is lost forever. Thank you.